investy besties, welcome back to the channel. So on today's video is going to be the first in a series of videos talking all about the home buying process. And the home buying process is really interesting, especially in this really hot seller's market. And I figure, you know what, let me get on here and just go into detail and talk about different tips and tricks that you can use to not only get your offer accepted, but not have to pay an arm and a leg for a property. Because as you probably know, homes are selling way over asking price. And so I figured, you know what, I've been through this a couple of times. We are about to close on our second rental property. And that is because, as you all know, we're trying to pursue FIRE, which is financial independence, retire early. We're a family of 5 and we plan on retiring in 9 years. And so this is one of the ways that we will be able to achieve FIRE and to be able to have income to live off of. Because as you guys know, when you retire early, you won't be able to draw off your 401k or your traditional retirement accounts or Social Security because you're still young in the government's eyes. And who knows if Social Security will be even around in 30 years or so. So the best thing that we can do is set ourselves up. And one of the ways we can do that is by diversifying our different assets. And one of the ways we're doing that is buying homes or rental properties, rent them out for a cash flow and be able to live off that each month. So in this particular video, because this is the first video in a series of 4 videos, and we're going to talk all about the money. Like, you see all this? This is pot money, but to buy a house, it costs this. Money. I can't tell you guys any other way, especially in this hot of a seller's market. Now, I know sometimes you may have, and some of these tips will be applicable to first-time home buyers, or if you're just in the market to buy a house, period. And so again, you need money to buy a home. Now, I know there are many down payment assistance programs. You have the FHA, VA, USDA, and so on and so forth. But when you are in a crazy hot seller's market, you got to really change your strategy up a bit. So again, when you create your budget, you want to make sure that it is something that you can afford. So my husband and myself, with our second rental, we wanted to make sure we stayed within the range of $180,000 to $200,000. Now, we live in the northeastern part of the United States. This is the tri-state area per se. And the value of homes and such is more expensive up here versus the South or the Midwest or somewhere like that. Though from my research, the market is just hot everywhere, from Texas to Seattle to Portland to Chicago to New York, Philadelphia, Georgia, Florida. It's hot everywhere. But in certain places in the United States, it's just extra hot. And so you want to make sure you strategically plan your method in terms of buying a house. I know that is so emotional. You spend your hard-earned money, you have saved up, you've been looking forward to this, but you have to treat it like a business as well, okay? Because again, it's a seller's market. The seller isn't connected to the emotionality of it on your behalf as a buyer. They're looking at what's going to give them the best deal. So like I mentioned, my husband and myself wanted to have a price range between $180,000 and $200,000. We were planning on putting 20% down so that we wouldn't have the PMI. Now, I know a lot of people like to house hack, but when you have a family and you have growing children, I have a daughter who's about to go to high school. We don't want to be in and out of different homes. We want some stability. And so we have to go the traditional route, which is put 20% down on a home. And speaking of that, I know there are different types of mortgages out there. I can tell you, in a seller's market, now I'm not saying it's impossible to get your offer accepted with the FHA, because I know people who have gotten their offers accepted with the FHA. It's just a very small number, and 9 times out of 10 they had to pay an earnest deposit and be willing to cover the appraisal gap and so on and so forth. But the majority of people in this market, in terms of buyers, either have a conventional or they come in with cash. And in the seller's eyes, the thing that takes most precedence is the cash. Under that is the conventional, and then under that is the FHA, VA, and USDA. Now, with this property, we could have gone the FHA route and just put down 3.5%, but we knew going into this, just from the research, just from different ones we've talked to who are going through this process, we knew we didn't want to have that extra hurdle to jump over. And to be honest, it's always suggested to put down 20% or as much as you can so you can avoid PMI and you can just go into the house with a lot of equity. Okay. And so again, 20% down is a lot, but in this market, numbers really do speak in terms of which, offer the seller will take. The next thing we did was the earnest deposit. Now, again, I know some programs don't require you to put down an earnest deposit. I can tell you that to really get your offer taken seriously, the seller wants to see you have some type of skin in the game. They want you to put some money up front to say, you know what, we're really serious, we're not going to back out. And so I know sometimes people put $1,000 earnest deposit, and that'll go towards your closing costs, so you don't have to worry about that being something extra. But we put down $5,000 earnest deposit. Again, it's just to show the seller that we're really serious about buying a home. That's another tip, is to have that money sitting in your checking account, your earnest deposit and your down payment. Because when you do go under contract, the first thing that the seller's agent is going to want is your earnest deposit, and they're going to want it within 2 to 3 business days. So it'll just be easier for you to just have it there so you can write a check. Do not wire any money, because there are a lot of people who have been scammed wiring money. So make sure you have a check. If you don't have a check, order some checks. You may be able to get a cashier's check. You have to talk with your lender and your agent, but again, they'll be able to steer you in that direction. So let's talk about down payments. Again, like I mentioned before, we're putting down 20%. So the house that we decided to purchase is a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. It is a town home, row home type of thing. In the Northeast, that's just what we call them, because these houses were built in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And so these are really, really good houses, well-built houses. And the type of tenant that my husband and myself is gearing towards is either a single person, a couple, or a family just starting out. So like with a child or 2 who, want to move on past the apartment phase. They just want a little bit of extra space, because with this pandemic, a lot of companies, including my husband's, have been transitioning to virtual at least 90% of the time. Now, my husband will have to go in the office here and there and travel here and there, but a lot of companies saw the benefit, especially in terms of saving money, to just have their employees work from home. So when you don't have to be confined to like the city or an apartment, you can have some more space because you can work anywhere. That'll be really, really good for someone like us who's trying to buy a property to rent out in terms of a single family home. So the home that we saw came on the market on a Thursday. It came on the market at $169,900. I have been noticing in this market, people will intentionally price their homes lower to incite a bidding war. But again, guys, one thing that I will tell you is that when you go into homes or you're looking at the pictures online, that you want to make sure you analyze the seller. Do the seller have some of their stuff packed up? Is the home cleared out? If so, that could be something you can leverage in terms of, that means the seller is already under contract with another house. That is something that worked for us in terms of this deal that we're in now. The sellers was pretty much already moved. And so because they can't really carry 2 homes at once or 2 mortgages at once. I think that when we came in, and because we were so fast in terms of how we came in, they just accepted our offer because they needed to show their bank that they had their first home under contract so that they can go ahead and get the financing for their next home. And so that's something you can look at when you're looking at the pictures. Are they packed up? And if they are, you can use that as a leverage. There are also things in terms of rent backs. You're probably going to hear that word a lot when you're looking for homes, is rent backs. That means after closing, the seller just needs some extra time. So our sellers initially needed 2 months. But because they were able to close on their home faster, they only need 2 days. But even with the 2 days, we are charging them $50 a day. Again, guys, some rent backs, the buyer will let the seller live there for free. But again, remember, this is a business transaction. And because of the eviction moratoriums, you want to make sure that you have all of this in writing, that everyone understands the same thing, and that everyone signs on a dotted line, okay? And so that's another money aspect, rent backs, that we're able to get. The next thing is try to find some lenders who have programs. And I'm not talking about like down payment assistance, I'm talking about like rebate programs. So our credit union have a rebate program. So if you go through them as a lender and use one of their preferred agents, they would give you a 3% rebate on your home as a credit back to you after you close. They'll send a check in the mail. And this is something that we did previously with our primary home. So once we close on the home, they will, as a thank you for using them, they will send you a credit. Now, the downside to it is that credit unions can be a little slower than your bigger banks. You may have to go through a lot of loopholes, and their systems aren't as current and up to date as some other lenders. But again, if you can kind of navigate through it and have all of your ducks in a row and be organized, you can go ahead and get that rebate. And we're getting $1,050 back after closing for a rebate because we went through them to buy a house. Now, I mentioned we do have a conventional loan. Our interest rate is 4.25. It is higher because when you do buy an investment property, the bank views it as a risky investment, of course. And so the interest rates are a little higher, but I still think that's pretty good considering it's for a rental. I do know that our mortgage person told us that the types of rentals in terms of having it on their books is capped at 7%. So Freddie and Fannie Mac, they're capping in terms of how many rentals each bank or credit union or entity can have, which would like give more space to, you know, people who are buying homes to live in as their primary home, which is completely fine. But again, like I mentioned, we are using this as a method or as a strategy to retire early, is to have, now the goal is to have 5 doors or 5 rentals. We believe we'll be able to have another rental maybe later this year. So the third, we do plan on refinancing or doing a cash out refinance to our first rental property because we have about $65,000, $70,000 in equity. That was our first home. So that's another tip. A lot of times you can use your first home as your first rental property. Just, you know, keep it and just buy another home. And so again, guys, that's pretty much everything in terms of what we have to bring. Now, total to closing. Our total closing costs, which includes our down payment, appraisal, inspections, all of that, was about $41,000. And that's like rounding up. So our down payment on a $170,000 home, it was $169.9, but we just put $170 in and they accepted the offer. They also actually decided to give us seller's assist, which it's rare in this type of environment. But because, like I said, they were already pretty much moved out. And when we got the inspection done, the roof had some issues. And to fix a roof on these types of homes will take about $5,000. So they gave us a $3,400 credit towards that, which was like, I mean, no complaints from us. That, you know, and even our agent was like, this is super, super rare for anybody to get that. But again, it's just about how you are navigating this market and playing chess, not checkers, guys. Look around the home. Like I said, if they are already pretty much moved out or packing up, they already got their eyes on something else. Use that to your advantage. But like I said, our down payment was $34,000 on a $170,000 home. And then our closing costs are a little over $11,000. We had to put a $5,000 earnest deposit down, and they are giving us a $3,400 seller's credit thingy. So that's pretty much all the numbers. Again, guys, you still have to pay for your appraisal hours, and you have to pay your appraisal before you hit the closing, okay? So our appraisal was $575. Our inspection, that's another thing you got to have money for, guys. Our inspection was $385. That included the termite and this your general inspection. So make sure you have that saved. Now, our goal was to save $40,000 total for all of this. So to go over about $1,000 wasn't too bad. This is something I'm also telling other people, whatever budget you have for the home process, especially in this market, save an extra 10%. So if you're trying to save $1,000, save an extra $100 on top of it. If your budget is $10,000, save an extra $1,000 on top of that. If it's $20,000, save an extra $2,000 on top of that. Because in this market, you may need the extra money. And if you don't need it, just use it to decorate your home or fix it up once you get into it. But again, guys, you want to make sure that you have all your numbers laid out. If you don't have to stay at the top of your budget, don't go over. But if you are going to overbid for a property, please make sure that you can afford it. I hate to see people get into homes because they're emotional about it and they're overbidding and they really can't afford it. And you see the homes come back on the market because financing fell through because the bank said, no, we're not going to do that. So we kind of lucked up on this, but just be fast, be prepared, be ready. And I'm confident that you will be able to buy the home that you desire. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for video number 2 next week, where we talk all about how you can get your offer accepted. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye, guys.